Hi there, I'm Rebecca and a really warm welcome back to my channel, PumpkinBecki. In this week's video I'm going to be giving the grapevines their winter pruning, and I thought we'd just say hi to Darcy. Let's get started. Miss Darcy is now 5 months old, and she's getting longer and longer and longer, and it's been a little while since you've seen her, so I just thought we'd come and say hi. We have 3 grapevines here in the garden. We've got 2 growing over the pergola, and we also have a slightly smaller one growing over by our pond. They are Cardinal, which is a dessert or table variety of grape, as opposed to a wine grape. Grapes should get pruned about twice a year. So once in winter, usually slightly earlier than this. December is better. We're now just into February, so I'm possibly pushing my luck a little bit, but we're due for a really cold snap and some snow, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that that will work in my favour. The winter prune is to really clean out the structure, bring it right back down to its base structure and really compact the growth and keep it a really neat framework that the spring-summer growth then comes off of, and it produces great long whips of growth. You would then come back once the fruit is set and prune to a couple of buds beyond each bunch of grapes. Ideally you would only have 1 per whip, otherwise it's just too much energy and you will get more but inferior fruit. Far better to have less fruit but that will grow bigger and stronger and healthier. So today's job is to get that winter pruning done. As I should have done it probably a month or so ago, but I didn't, so I'm doing it now. And you can see that I still have a lot of fruit left on the vines. They've been on this long to help feed the birds, but I am going to cut them all off now. We're now up on top of the pergola, and I've got my brand new Felco 5s, which I'm going to start using. Very excited. And we're going to have a look at the structure. You can see that I've got really long whippy summer growth happening here. In some places I know I have shortened it, but as you can see I've got lots of grapes hanging as well. As with all pruning, you're aiming to get rid of dead, diseased and damaged wood, 3Ds, but with grapevines we also want to take the structure right back. You can see here the differences between the much older stems, like this, and the younger whippier growth like this. What we want to do is to start to bring all this long new growth from last year right back to these more compact junctions. And you're aiming to have 2 buds left in place. So I'm just going to pull the grapes off for a moment so we can see. This one I'm definitely going to cut off because it's broken, so that is damaged and goes. I am actually going to prune that further back, but that's an example of damaged. On this junction you can see the compact joints that I've been able to make over the years, and then you can see the long stems branching off. We now need to count the buds to see where we're going to prune this back to keep it compact. So we want at least 2. 2 is ideal. There's usually something considered a basal bud, and that is sort of on the shoulder of the branch. I have got one there. I have got, I think, no, I've got another bud here and a second one here. So I'm going to cut just above. Underneath here I've got quite a tangly mess. This is clearly dead, so I'm going to cut that off. But also this is a bit useless, so I'm going to cut that right hard back to clean it up. 1, 2. I'm going to cut this one here. So I've now got a bud that is pointing this way, and I've got a bud that's pointing that way and also that way. If you were treating it as a commercial crop like a vineyard would, then you would actually probably cut this entire old section off and then start growing off this section. But for me, that's compact enough. So as I was saying before, if you were growing these commercially for wine grapes, you would probably leave this lower spur on and remove this upper spur just to really keep it compact. I'm not going to do that. I am going to allow it to fork from this point. You can't see it, but I have a bud that is right here behind the shoulder. Then I have another one here. And I have another one here. I am going to cut just above that last one. Definitely being more ruthless than I have in previous years. Don't know if there's a reason for that. If you're nervous about making that cut, you can always do a slightly lighter prune, and then once you've had a chance to assess the branch, few minutes later, or as you work your way further down the vine and go, actually no, that is too long, you can always come back in. As is the way with gardening, you can't stick it back on. I thought we'd come and have a look at this third grapevine now. It's the one that grows along the fence line at the back of the garden as opposed to along the pergola. It's actually the same age as the other two, but I had a bit of a situation with it. We were growing it in a pot until the fence had gone in, and it got very upset and we lost all the top, so I had to regrow it from a much smaller stump than we had before. So you can see that from the base it forks and then goes across the top and also along this line here. They were just convenient hanging points for it. But what we now need to do, just as we did with the pergola, is prune all the growth that happened last year back down to that structure. We're doing exactly the same operation. We're pruning to 2, removing dead, diseased or damaged wood. I'm also taking off things that are trying to grow in towards the fence. I'm going to take off that whole bud. In fact, I'm going to take off that whole bit and take that piece off. And so you really start to space out the distances between the potential bunches of grapes. Because this vine went through such a hard time, I have really let it just survive for the last few years. I tried not to interfere with it too much, just keeping it trained against the fence. But you can see that some junctions have got really, really complicated, and you've got pieces of growth coming back down into other bits of growth, and so they're rubbing, and so I'm just going to come in and go shrunk. This is a nice, happy, healthy vine now. It's absolutely fine to do this. While it was in such distress, I wouldn't have dreamt of doing it. Winter pruning is also a great time for identifying potential problems and insect issues. And here you can see they just look like they might be swollen nodes, maybe. Buds coming. These are actually scale insect. And there's a hard shell that protects an insect. And they can cause quite a bit of trouble on many plants. And especially with things like grapevines, where you've got this peeling, gnarly bark, they can sort of get themselves into nooks and crannies and so many little tight spaces that they can sit in. So it really is a good time to see them and squish them. And pruning helps. Pruning helps open up those spaces that insects like this hide in. You can come along with cotton wool soaked in surgical spirit. That will definitely help. But I mean, the main thing to do is to squash the shell. That is, after all, what protects them. Okay, so you can see that lower branch has now been resolved right back down to the spurs, and I need to come across and do the top one as well. Wow, what a difference. That's now all set up, ready to grow away in the spring and summer. And hopefully we will have lots of grapes on that vine again this year. Right, well, that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to rate, share and subscribe to me here on YouTube. And until next time, bye.